Blessings, everyone. Welcoming you to Ascension Alchemists podcast. This is Reverend HoniB with my solo episode today. And today's episode is sharing my heart out with you regarding the internal battle in this very raw, real expression. So even us ministers have an internal battle. And that's the truth. Internal battle is with all of us on the human planet. If you're a human form, we are going to have battles that are designed for us to go through and to overcome. And for a very long time, I actually would get really upset when there was a battle. I could see the battle on the outside very clearly, and I was very observant of the inner battle on the inside. How many of you can relate to that? That internal battle where you're battling to make sense out of what happened, attempting your best to make sense out of it, to translate it, maybe analyze it, and somehow this outer reality made an impression on the inside. And on the inside, certain feelings were experienced within you, certain emotions surfaced, then even to certain thoughts, and then the mind started going all over the place. And within this, then there is mighty God presence. And sometimes experiencing, well, where is God in here? Because I'm experiencing all of this battle on the inside, and I'm not happy with the reality that took place on the outside, yet I'm aware enough that I have to look within me. And within me, as I sit in it, there's a part of me that is experiencing the compassion of what my human is going through. And at the same time, as I lean back more, then there's my awareness, noticing the struggle that the human has. And there's an attempt for the truth of God Almighty to be shared from within, so that the perspective on what is being experienced on the outside can change. And it's not as easy. There's a true battle. And I want to speak of this battle because this is something that I had been experiencing the last 2 weeks, a real, true internal battle. And because of where I'm in life right now and having gone through so many of these cycles, there is a deep awareness and understanding that these dips where my consciousness is dropping into the awareness of the situation, and it seems that my energy has dropped. What is actually happening is I'm going into that space of deeper understanding. And whenever we come into a deeper place of understanding, maybe some of you can relate, we start experiencing the feelings, the emotions, and the thoughts. And often, because they're associated with heavier, say, feelings. For example, the feeling of frustration, the feeling of being mad, the feeling being upset. So then the emotion is maybe anger, maybe sadness, maybe despair, right? So the thought is, oh, I can't get, the thought is, I can't believe that happened. This shouldn't have happened. What am I doing wrong? So then it goes into the internal, it touches the belief system, where the belief, maybe some of it is being conscious, this always happens. I don't know how to get through to this. I just feel every time I'm trying to do something, this happens again. So there's that belief. And then underneath it is the unconscious belief. And then there's the mind trying to dictate it. And simultaneously, here's God's presence that wants to reveal another perspective. Because what is happening is that this internal prison that we have created that we're not even aware of wants to break the bars of the prison. And I literally experienced that this past week. This internal prison that I knew I've put myself in, and it's nobody else's, it is mine. And I'm hitting my end of this because of the sensitivity of the amount of feelings, the amount of emotions, the level, and taking it on, not just for myself, for others, and experiencing the weight of it. And there has been also a few cycles in my life that I've gone through this. And it seems on the inside that I'm done with me. And naturally on the outside, I'm seeing an expression of it where it's like, I'm done with this. And I know I'm done with it, yet I can't reach it. So I'm sitting in prayer. I'm asking God Almighty for help. I'm opening myself to that Christ light to shine its light brighter. And it is shining. It is shining bright on the area. And it requires a different step to be taken. And this is often the challenge in so many of us, that we can't take this step. So for me, this past week, something had surfaced in my outer reality, which I was able to take note. Okay, this is definitely on the internal, that the internal screws have to tighten up, because it's tying to my past. It's tying to past hurts. It's tying to past pain in the emotional body, and the pain body inside of me is more inflamed. I'm aware. So then there is this awareness. Okay, so there's more cortisol being produced here, and I want this to end. So I'm sitting in prayer. God, take care of me, help me, and come to me. So I'm opening myself, and I'm noticing I'm able to drop in there, and I'm able to be held by the beholder and be comforted. So as my eyes are closed, I'm there, I'm okay with the breath, and I can lean in and relax. Yet when I open my eyes, as I start to go about my day, then I've dropped into my human. And there is that presence of the heaviness, the feelings and the emotions. And it seems that it wants to engulf me. Simultaneously being aware enough while this is happening, there is an invitation that God is not doing anything out of integrity, out of purpose, out of will. I know exactly this is happening for my highest good. And my gosh, it sucks. I don't want to go through it. I don't want to deal with it. My human self doesn't want to feel the yuckiness of it. I'm inside yuck. And so I'm journaling, I'm breathing, I'm walking, and on the inside, the pain is much more there. Careful enough also not to speak it, not to give it power, so it doesn't amplify further, because it's already inside of me, and it wants to hover over and kind of drown me. And it is something that has succeeded so many times perhaps this has been also the same with you. So many times you've gone through and you've let yourself be completely defeated by your feelings, by your emotions, by your thoughts. And somehow you thought those things are you. You weren't even able to distinguish that's not you. Those are just your feelings, your emotions, and your thoughts. Those change all the time throughout the day. That's not your truth. Yet you're in it and you're being pulled into it. So then you make the terrible decisions from there. Then you regret, and it's like a vicious cycle. When the awareness comes in, you recognize that's not what I want to do anymore. I'm aware enough, I don't want to do that. So with God's presence, when we lean back, that is there. Yet the biggest struggle is because the pain body is connected to the part of the brain that has been so hardwired from this place of survival that many of us have programmed it without knowing, we have conditioned it without knowing, we have strengthened it without knowing, and it's this huge muscle that is so strong and has a tight grip. So this was me with this tight grip this week. Very aware, very much present with it, embracing the gifts that will come out of it, simultaneously recognizing this part of me on the inside that felt very weak because this muscle was by far much stronger. So then the thoughts with that came, you always suffer, you're always neglected, so all these always came up. So then there's the voice. How many of you with me? That voice that comes on, and it's not a nice voice. It is a voice that wants to protect you. It's the voice of that protector part of you, and it has its purpose, yet it keeps the grip tighter. So while I was in this internal battlefield, it was exhausting, I have to say. By the way, do you know that when we do not forgive, let's say, ourselves, it's sometimes much easier to forgive others, but not ourselves. So say if you're not forgiving yourself, I'm going to come back to the point I was making. It's equivalent, like in a day that you haven't forgiven yourself, they have been able to find the amount of energy is equivalent to 40 hours in your week of work, of labor, how much that impacts you. When I learned this, I was like, wow, that's tremendous. And certainly I do not wish to engage in that, yet I do also fall victim in it. Because sometimes, even though I'm very connected with God, and even though God's presence is there, even though I'm service, my life is devotion to God, my human vessel every single day goes through a human experience. And if I do not remind myself that God Almighty is here with me, that Christ's light is with me, everything is revealed, it is not to harm me, it is here to help me. I am not a victor, I'm not a victim, I'm here to bring victory to these. If I don't remind myself, I can very easily drown in it. So I don't know if any of you speak in favor to yourself. It's very important to speak favor to yourself. It took me a long time to start speaking favor over me, stand in agreement with me. So this is what I ended up doing this week. I journaled, I cried, I walked, I felt the heaviness in the body, and it seemed like I've come to an end. And we each have an ending. You see one of my Sunday service messages about ending. how important it is to come to an end, because the human has to come to an end. And I found myself coming to an end on the inside. And I sat there on my cushion with my eyes closed and just tearing. I said, God, I've come to my end. I just want this battle to end on the inside. I know you're here. This muscle has a bigger grip over me. You're the only one who can handle this. I can't do it on my own. And that's where my breakthrough came. I found myself, by truly moving into a surrender place, inviting God, and this is what happens. God Almighty wants to take this from us, yet we, from our human lens, from our human body, take on all the load. Then we're worn out, we're exhausted, we're not functioning right. So when we're not, we're more susceptible to procrastination, to anxiety, to negative thinking, and also beliefs. Then we make poor choices from that place, and this goes on and on. And we keep ourselves in this loophole that we don't want to be in, yet here we are in it. And that includes me. So I'm sharing, again, the promise of this channel, this podcast has been to be raw and real, and to draw the wisdom from that which has been transformed. So within this area, this has been an area that's been more of a struggle to overcome. And it's almost as if being in that pain body, because it's so familiar for so long, and I have learned to be with the pain, yet there is this desire to be out of the pain, be in the relief. And the pain that I'm referring to is the emotional pain. So coming back to the moment of breakthrough, when I was sitting on the cushion and I just closed my eyes, weeping and inviting God to take this from me. And something interesting happened on the inside. So on the inside, I experienced for the first time this, I don't want to call it spark, yet it seemed like it was a spark in awareness that wanted me to say out loud something else. And it seemed almost like crazy, I have to say. So I opened my mouth and I said, in the name of God, I am released from this burdens. And my voice was loud. The words just came out. And my voice was so firm, with authority. And something happened on the inside. It was like as if there were these, I want to say, chains on the inside. Something broke on the inside through those words. And I was aware of it. I was aware of it physically, emotionally, mentally, etherically, spiritually, and I was aware of it from the observer lens. Multidimensionally, I was aware of it. So I leaned back a little bit more. My posture adjusted a little bit more with the tears. I adjusted my head a little bit more. It seemed like I was erected, or almost like resurrected, a little bit straighter. And my posture with my shoulders came back, and there was another set of words that came out. The other set of words was, in the name of God Almighty, I am forever free under your wings of victory. And somehow I hadn't practiced it. I wasn't even aware I was going to say it. The words just came out of me. When those words came out, it seemed like on the inside, my physical body stood taller. Like, I don't want to say smoke, something shifted out of me from within. And with that, this was the next thing that from inside these words were said. In the name of God Almighty. And with this time, my body relaxed, the voice settled down. And it said, I will never be bothered by another person ever again from their behavior as they are a child of God. They're allowed to act in whichever way they want. But I will no longer be affected because I am in agreement with God Almighty in this now. And as those words were said, something inside my brain shifted. Something happened. I don't know what it was, yet it was like immediate relief, I want to say. And it seemed like on the inside, there was a current running through me. And I was experiencing on the inside, wow, this is the currency of that Christ light is running through me, running through all my bodies. Like the doors to my bodies open up, the walls came down, walls of Jericho, walls came out inside of me. My heart immediately on the inside became lighter. And within an hour, this individual that had taken a actionable step that had negatively impacted me, and of course, she didn't mean to do it in any way on purpose or anything, but it had happened. It gave me permission to meet her with such loving presence, so much care, while being able to speak that this action created this impact, and I was aware it wasn't done purposely, yet here's what it was. And I would appreciate to be able to catch up on this and receive the help that I need. And with her, there was such a deep willingness, desire, and accountability and responsibility, which was really, really beautiful to witness. So there was this mutual space of immediate love, immediate just purity. And the best thing, I'm finding myself speaking very slowly because I'm walking you through step by step what happened on the inside. So thank you for bearing with me. And the best thing on the inside of me was, wow, today I really took a different step. And I freed myself from that battle. And I understand why God Almighty created this situation so that I can experience this idea within that seemed to hit the end. And for me from inside, ask for greater help because I'm not meant to do it alone. Invite God presence in. And when God presence comes in, it shifts everything, gives the ability to see things through a very different reality, and then have the language, have the lens to speak from and to act from. And this is how we're able to shift our reality from within so that outer reality takes form in that. And what a freedom that is. What a true freedom. Because we're always looking for freedom. Yet we're not even aware the freedom that we're seeking is seeking us on the inside, because we're inside a prison with invisible bars that we're not even aware that we have put ourselves in, and we've kind of locked it and thrown the key away, and we keep going through this cycle of inner pain and suffering, yet we want it to end, and we're not willing to take a different step because this other part is bigger. So the victory for me was taking this other step, which was a very different step that I took. And that step opened my internal prison. And as the bars open, my inside did the synapses change. So that's where that neuroplasticity comes. And then the thoughts begin having a different thought. So then there's a different emotion on the inside. There's a different feeling. And I felt I was being cuddled, held, loved, honored, respected, appreciated. All these feelings that I wanted to experience, but it wasn't happening because I wasn't aware that I wasn't allowing it. So it's so deep, this internal awareness and the layers of it. So Ascension Alchemists, why this Ascension Alchemist? To alchemize this ascension, to embody, we must first align it, right? To alchemize it, to embody it, it has to go through all these bodies. And the truth of God Almighty has to move through all these 5 bodies to become a living reality, to help us shift out of the way that our human vessel has walked into the liberation and the true freedom. And that true freedom is that internal Christ. It is through that light, that eternal light, the inner Christ, leads the way, shows the way. And we can't access it if you're not allowing it. We can't access it if you don't know it's there. We can't interact with it if we've locked the door. We can't go in the room on the inside. So it is a really beautiful expression. And every time that I've gone through these pockets, I've had greater awareness, greater understanding, greater understanding, and then I'm standing in that truth. So some of you saw my reel yesterday that it's going viral. When I spoke, let me stand with you. So when I stand, I'm standing in that truth, and God Almighty is standing with me, because it is a revelation from within. And those who come into that agreement, they want to stand. They want me to stand over them, with them. There is a change that does take place, and this is how we all help each other. And for those who want to go much deeper, this is how I'm able to then mentor. I always mentor the spiritual life mentoring, life coaching that I do with some of these specific individuals that decide to work with me 3 months or 6 months, very in depth. We go deep into layers and layers of unveiling and the personal responsibility and the shift of our reality from within and the freedom that comes. And this is an ongoing journey. So just because I've had this doesn't mean more will not come. More will come. It is part of it. I've surrendered to that. Yet, the speed in which the gap is closing is faster and faster and faster. The suffering is becoming lesser and lesser and lesser. The shift in our outer reality is speeding up to greater and better. What happens? Then there is different interaction, different collaboration, different people, different opportunities come. These are all part of it. And this is my episode today. I'm very excited for you to leave your comments with me. Tell me if anything that I shared resonated with you. Are you going through some of this struggle? It's very real, right? Let me know. And as I wrap this up, I leave this with you. There is such a divine perfection in this imperfection. And we are loved every step of the way. Indeed, we are loved. But we can't experience the love while we are thick in it. When we are out of it, we are a living testament for that which became our testimony with overcoming. So welcome to the journey. And now I'm going to have a few words for my Iranian speaking viewers, followers. Thank you so much. I look forward in hearing your comments. God bless you all. دوستان عزیز، خوش آمدین. مرسی از این که با من الان هستین که بتونیم با هم دیگه قلب با قلب صحبت کنیم، چون این هفته خیلی هفته جالبی برام بود. از اینکه داخلم، اون دردی که داخلم بود، درد قلبی از نظر احساسی بود و انگار که یه مثل بتل برام بود، مثل بتل، نمیدونم فارسی چی میشه، جبهه، مثل جبهه بود برام که داخلم برای خیلی مدت نمیتونستم اینشو تکمیلش بکنم، انگار که تموم نمیشد هر چقدر سعی میکردم، چون که میدونستم داخلم اون درد مال منه، اگه اون احساس رو میکنم مال منه، اگه اون فکر رو میکنم مال منه، اگه اون اتفاقی که بیرون افتاده، اون احساس و فکر رو که من داخلم میکنم اون مال منه، پس مشکل داخل من هست نه اون بیرون. و به خاطر اینکه مشکل داخل من هست، پس من تصمیم گیره هستم که بتونم برم داخل رو تمیز کنم، داخل رو انگار که خونه تکانی باید بکنم و بعد ببینم چی شده، این احساس چی هستش. وقتی مثلا احساس ناراحتیه، به خاطر اینکه فیلینگش ناراحتیه و افکارش ناراحت بشه و چطوری من اجازه دادم اینجوری بشه، خدا کجاست این وسطش؟ خدا میدونم هیچ وقت منو تنها نمیذاره، پس چطور شد این احساس ها رو میکنم و چرا اینقدر احساس تنهایی میکنم و چرا احساس اینقدر ضعیفی میکنم وقتی این احساس ها داخلم هست و انگار که دارم غرق میشم. هر موقع خودم رو از خدا جدا کردم این احساس رو داشتم و این احساس ها انگار که بازوهاشون خیلی قوی شده بودن و اونا خیلی بیشتر رو من اثر داشتن تا من بتونم اون اثر رو از خدا بتونم داشته باشم که اون از روح، از نور و از اون عشق خدا این مثل حالت صدمه داخلم نباشه. و این یه استراگل خیلی حقیقی بود داخلم و به اندازه میدونم اگه این اتفاقی که از بیرون دارم میبینم من خودم اینو ساختم، پس بعد برم داخلم رو تمیز کنم. در هر صورت این هفته پیش این به وجود اومد که من اپورتونیتی داشته باشم و همیشه خدا انقدر ما رو دوست داره این سیچویشن ها برامون میاره و وقتی که اگه ندونیم که چی شده فکر میکنیم خدا از ما جداست، ولی وقتی با خدا هستیم میدونیم این جزء کار خداست، چون که توی این هدیه هست و حقیقت هست که ما باید در تماس باهاش باشیم و اون حقیقت از داخل میخواد به ما خودشون نشون داده بکنه. از این لحاظ من بتونم برگردم به خدا. نشستم شروع کردم صحبتم با خدا، از اینکه خدا خواستم که به من نشون بده چرا اینقدر این درد زیاده و انگار که به آخر خط رسیدم، دیگه نمیخوام این درد قلب انقدر باشه و میدونم قلبم نیست، ولی اون احساسش انقدر سنگینه، اون سنگینی رو نمیخوام دیگه با خودم انگار که کشتی باش بگیرم، میخوام تموم بشه، انگار جنگه، میخوام اصلا تموم بشه، میخوام پیس باشه داخلم. ولی اون پیس چون که تو افکارم نیست، پس تو بدنم نمیتونه باشه، پس افکارم باید عوض بشه. پس چی هستش تو افکارم؟ افکارم خاطرهای درد داره و چطور میتونم از این زندان خاطرهای درد خودم رو در بیارم، بکشم بیرون، چون کار هیچ که دیگه ای نیست، کار خودمه، کار داخلیه، تمیزی داخلیه. در این صورت نشستم با خدا، یک کلمه اشک ریختم و برگشتم به خدا، گفتم خدایا میدونم آفریده من هستی، این نور رو که برای من داری، این نور رو من شاین میکنی که من ببینم، دارم میبینم، ولی باید کمکم هم بکنی. انگار که من ضعیفم، اون قدرت رو ندارم، پس قدرت تو به من بده، من از این تو درار. و چجوری درار؟ کمکم کن. و تو اونجا بودم که تونستم بشنوم خدا از داخل با هم صحبت کنه و خدا خواست دستامو بیارم بالا و اصلا یه چیز دیگه بگم و این کلمه که اومد ازم، ببینم چجوری میتونم فارسی بگم، دستامو آوردم بالا و خدا گفتم به اسم خدا تمام این درد جزء من دیگه نیست. نمیدونم اگه درست نشو دارم میگم، ولی یه چیزی اینجوری، صدام خیلی بلند بود و وقتی این کلمه همینجوری اومد، انگار که یه چیزی داخلم شد و عوض شد. از اون که عوض شد، انگار که مثل زنجیر باز شد و وقتی باز شد دوباره چشمو بستم و داخل انگار خدا از داخل از قلبم میخواست یه چیزی بگه و وقتی این دهنم باز بود دوباره گفتم به اسم خدا، فقط این نور حقیقتمه و این نور هست که باعث آزادی میشه، یه همچین چیزی. و این دوباره داخلم باز شد و داخلم که باز شد انگار که توی مغزم باز شد، انگار که اون وقت توی بدنم باز شد، انگار که جسمم باز شد، بعد انگار قلبم رهافت پیدا کرد و تونستم احساس کنم کرنت مثل الکتریسیتی تو بدنم شروع کرد دوباره به جریان افتاد و خیلی جالب بود که میدیدم چقدر جالب، انگار که انرژی دوباره برگشته توی بدنم و چقدر زیبا. میتونستم وقت احساس کنم انگار که داخل اقیانوس خدا دوباره هستم و چجوری هی جدا میشم و برمیگردم، جدا میشم. پس اون تصمیم گیره من هستم که اجازه میدم مغزم، افکارم، احساساتم منو جدا کنه و من اون جداییه نمیخوام. من میخوام باشم، یونیتی باشم، نمیدونم یونیتی چی میشه، یکمی با خدا باشم و نمیخوام جدا باشم. در این صورت اون خیلی داخلم رو کمک شد و انگار که این جنگی که داخلم بود تونستم تمومش کنم و مهمترین درس تو این بود که میدونستم خدا این کار رو به وجود نیامده که من ضربه بخورم. خدا اینو به وجود آورده که من بتونم قدرتم رو به خودم برگردونم از داخلم و بتونم این دیدم باز بشه. وقتی دیدم باز بشه دنیا رو یه جور دیگه میبینم و از اینکه داخل رو تمیز کردم ریالیتیم بیرون عوض خواهد شد. ارتباطهای بهتر، رابطهای بهتر، کلابریشنهای بهتر، اپورتونیتیهای بهتر، همه اینا جزوش هستش و آزادی همیشه داخل هستش، هیچ وقت بیرون نیستش. و چقدرم احساس زیبایی هست داخل وقتی این این در دوباره باز میشه و این تمام این کرنت ها شروع میکنه دوباره برمیگرده به موومنت داخل، تمام توی این بدنهای مختلف. و از اینکه این افکار وقتی که برمیگرده به خدا زیباییشو میبینه چقدر هدیهش زیبا بود و از این هدیه میتونم مثلا برای شما صحبت کنم و شمایی که گوش میدین میتونین اینم برای شما یه حالت حقیقت ریالیتی بشه و پاسیبیلیتی میشه و اینجوری همدیگر رو کمک خواهیم کرد. و اینجوری هست که وقتی خودم اینو رو احساس میکنم میتونم کسی دیگر رو کمک کنم. کسی دیگر رو وقتی لایف منتور میکنم یا کوچ میکنم میتونم کمکش کنم اونم دران از داخل اونجا و بتونن زندگی بهتری داشته باشن. در صورت این چند دقیقه زبان فارسیم هست برای امروز. خیلی ممنون از اینکه خوش گوش دادین و واقعا خوشحال میشم اگه برام بتونین یه مقدار یا پیغام بذارین و بگین، چون این سومین باری که دارم فارسی صحبت میکنم و واقعا سعی دارم میکنم که بتونم فارسی صحبت کنم، اکسپرس کنم، که بسیار مشکل هست. و از اینکه این کار دارم میکنم به خودم اجازه دادم داخل که خودم از این زندانم در بیارم. زندانم که میگه زبانت خوب نیست، سواد به اندازه نداری، فقط 6 کلاس فارسی بلدی، 40 سال فارسی حرف نزدی، چجوری به خودت اجازه میخوای بدی همچین کاری بکنی؟ و اینا میدونم این صدای حقیقت نیست، چون که اگرم که زبانم به اندازه خوب نباشه وقتی از حقیقت صحبت میکنم شمایی که گوش میدین اون حقیقت رو میتونین احساس کنین داخلتون و شاید هم شما بتونین کمکم کنین با چند تا از این لغت ها که من بهتر بتونم صحبت کنم. در صورت خیلی ممنون. روز بسیار زیبای خود داشته باشین و همیشه یادتون باشه خدا خیلی دوستتون داره و هیچ وقت جزوتون نیست. این افکار خود انسان هست که نمیتونه درک کنه که چقدر خدا عاشقشه و از عشق آفریده شده. در صورت تا هفته دیگه میبینمتون. خدا نگهدار.